something that really bothers me is when people talk about labeling. It is not a label, it is a diagnosis. And when we think about a diagnosis, we think about tools. So it gets difficult, you know, talking about these types of things online, because everyone has so many of, you know, their personal opinions. I'll talk to you from the voice of someone, from the heart of someone who lives with ADHD and who has a child with ADHD. This is really personal for me, and I actually really struggled with, I've always wanted to talk about it, but it's also my personal kind of stuff. So in some ways, haven't wanted to. But I think it's so important for everyone to realize that it is not a label. When someone is diagnosed with something, you are giving them a little toolkit for them to live their life the best way possible. From someone who was not diagnosed, my parents tried. They took me to people because they knew that there was something up with me. It was so clear, but they didn't get any answers. From someone who has lived it and who always just thought they were dumb, because for me, school was so hard. I also have sensory issues. So a classroom was an absolute minefield. And if you look at someone with ADHD's brain waves compared to a normal person's brain waves, it is like spaghetti. It is literally like spaghetti in your head, and there's no way, it's so hard for you to think. So from someone who has lived it, and for someone who always just thought it was them, and that, you know, that I was dumb. Like, I literally had a voice in my head constantly telling me I was dumb, and I had no reason. Like, I didn't have a diagnosis. I didn't have a reason for me being a certain way. It was just, that's the way I was. I know that teachers really struggled with me. I know they hated me. I remember being at 7 or 8 years old, walking up to a new teacher, and I was so excited. I said, hello, and she said, hello, what's your name? And I said, Christy Austin, because that was my name before getting married. And she went, oh. So she knew me before she knew me. So that's a label. That was a label that I was a naughty kid, because I probably was. My brain was just so on fire, and I just couldn't think. Putting someone with ADHD and sensory issues into a normal mainstream classroom, honestly, it's like putting someone who can't swim into the sea. Terrible stuff, you know. And obviously, once they're diagnosed, they're given the teachers are given tools, the kids are given tools, you know, you are able to deal with a mainstream classroom. But if you don't know, and you're just always going through life losing stuff, I was just constantly losing stuff wherever I went. One time my mum brought me a pair of shoes, and I didn't even get them home. I lost them before I got home. As an adult, I'd lose keys, I'd lose phones, and it was felt, people would pay me out about it too, and it was like I was just this, you know, lazy. And it's not about making an excuse. A diagnosis isn't an excuse. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. It's empowering to know that it's not just you being a certain way. It's not your choice. It is something that you're dealing with. And yeah, you don't want to just blame the ADHD, but if you have the tools and you can see OTs to help you with those just normal things, it gives you so much. You feel like you're empowered, and you also have power over your own life. So I suppose my point is, I haven't spoken too much about my son, because really that's his personal journey, and I don't want to talk too much about him, but he's the most beautiful little soul, and I'm so glad I had him diagnosed so early, because he now has tools to live the best life he can. And you know, before that, he couldn't read. He was struggling with everything. He was struggling with his his normal way of being. Once you know what's happening, you're able to help. You're able to give, able to help those kids and adults, even if it is an adult that is struggling. So let's just stop talking about labels and start realizing that it is a diagnosis and that these diagnoses help people. All right, guys, I hope I haven't rambled on too much. See ya.